it's just they're not executing with guys on base. The home run power has gone away this month. The starting pitching has been just fine, really. The bullpen has been okay. There's a couple people there who I think there's one person there who probably still needs to go. But for the most part, the pitching staff has held up their end. It's just the offense now. They were doing those things in April. They were being aggressive on the base paths, and it was paying off. Now they're being probably overly aggressive, and they're just making too many mistakes. They're not executing when they need to with runners in scoring position, and they're making too many mistakes on the base paths.
So how do you shake it up?
Well, let me tell you.
Who doesn't like playing manager? It's fun.
You know how Gunnar Henderson, their top prospect, just hit a home run for them?
21-year-old Gunnar Henderson, by the way.
I don't know. Maybe there's a guy with like 1150 OPS in the minors that might be able to do that.
Who's that?
Some catcher. I don't know if anyone here knows anything about MLB catching, but there's this one catcher who's just like absolutely mashing in Double A, who has the highest OPS in all Double A. I don't know. I think he could help contribute.
Yeah, I think there's a reason why he's playing right field the last couple of days, and you have to understand when you sign a guy to $5 million, the reality is he's gonna get his chances. I think there is a period where he could be pushed aside, but like if you bring up Henry Davis, you got to play every day, and it's tough when it's a premium position and it's catcher, because that's the knock they continually have against him. Which I've heard mixed reviews. I've watched him, and he's super diligent about what he does on a daily basis. So yeah, I think if you're looking for a bat and you look at our lineup, I would rather him get at bats than Miguel Andujar. I mean, that's one, but he's got to play every day. And but I think the fans are getting really itchy. So I would expect to move pretty soon, one way or another, whether he's up to AAA or whatever. But both those guys should be playing other positions, because no matter what, I think DeLay's getting groomed to be that third catcher for the future. Because his I don't know if you want to say his analytics behind the plate are getting closer and closer to Hedges. That's why he's playing more, not because of his swing, even though his swing has been better. He's got a lot of luck on his side too. But I think if you just look at how much he's grown this year, he's surprised everybody. And I expect that to happen year after year, because this guy is a diligent worker. He works with Reynolds in the offseason, so he's working with a guy that's extremely talented, and that always makes you better. So I like the possibility of those three being together, but I would love to see them take a little risk at some point here soon, as soon as Endy is going well, and as soon as they feel comfortable with Davis. He doesn't need to go to AAA if they don't. I mean, the pitching's not that much different. So
let me ask you this, because
But I understand both. I got to get you. So
the
business side of it, I understand this.
Oh no. So the business side is a bunch of bullshit. I don't want to even deal with that, because that's just like, I don't care if calling up these guys affects the 2029 Pirates payroll. Figure it out later.
I don't even look at that anymore. I think that's a silly way to even talk anymore. When it's Super 2 status, I'm like, do you know how many people even make it to 3 years in the big leagues? Even former first rounders, you just play them. You hope for the best, right? Like, we didn't expect O'Neal Cruz to get hurt, did we? But he did.
Right.
And that's the reality, is like, you have to understand that there's no real understanding of how long a guy's career can be. So you just throw them out there and let them play if they're best player.
So I want to ask you this, because I mean, you're probably more equipped to answer this question than anybody else we could have on here, because you were a catcher. So I am probably the staunchest. Let's bring Davis and Endy up and roll with a 3-catcher rotation. Delay, Endy, Davis. And I get into fights every day on Twitter with people who just harp on the development of the catching position. What is just your general thought on Henry Davis has played 90 minor league baseball games. He's probably caught 65 of them, maybe. At what point can you say, okay, you know what, he needs to just figure out how to catch in the majors? Or are you just keeping him down there until he's 100% comfortable calling games, sticking with game plans, that sort of thing?
It's a double-edged sword. And what I mean by that is his bat is a big league bat, and it's probably as close as anybody's in the minor leagues right now. Endy's as well. I think he had a struggle because he's taking a lot more load behind the plate than he did last year. And they're harping on it so much, and that brings an anxiety to it. So I think you can look at it like this. If you're trying to win now and you want your best available bats in the lineup on a daily basis, they're in the lineup somewhere, right? Like look at Kyle Schwarber. He was playing the World Series pretty immediately. If that's the comparable you're looking at with Henry Davis, his bat has outplayed his defense, right? Bryce Harper's bat has outplayed his defense. Now, the value long-term, having those guys behind the plate is huge, but if you feel like you can run a little bit and they're going to make your lineup that much better, and I think what you really have to look at is their ability to make good swing decisions. These guys are not striking out a lot. They're putting together good at-bats, and they both have the ability to hit 25, 30 homers. So with that being said, yes, they could get up here and start learning how to hit and probably be better than some of the guys we have now. I mean, that's just realistic. And then, catch here and there. But they would be around, you may have to carry 4 catchers and just be around Hedges because, well, here's the reality. You can't lose the locker room. You can't just get rid of Hedges because our pitching staff had a historic run at the beginning. They are throwing a lot better. His ERA is outstanding, a pitcher-catcher ERA, and he's a great receiver, great blocker. He's usually a great thrower. A lot of the throwing issues are based around the guys not holding runners on. So you add all that up, and you try to decide, all right, where am I going to get the most value out of these guys? I don't think Hedges needs an at-bat every day to stay where he is offensively. He can catch here and there. He can come in, defensive replace. So you can get creative if they wanted him up here. And I think that's the best way to put it. If you really wanted him here, you could get very creative, get him here, and they could develop here in the bullpen. They develop doing a lot of different things, thinking outside the box. And I use Milwaukee. Like I wanted Ortiz to start in the bullpen this year. And the reason being is he's developing pitches. So when he gets to the big leagues, he's trying to overshoot his mark with his sinker and his slider. And when he could have been doing that in the bullpen without being that good with that feel, he'd still dominate as a bullpen guy right now in the big leagues. He kind of showed that his last start. He was all over the place. Sinker was sliding. His slider was just barely moving, had no depth, and he still pitched okay. So that's where I say it. I'm a very aggressive thinker, and I bet on the guy.
I like the way you think, Ford.
You hit like one mark of everything we've all said at one point.
Well, I have to look at it like
the best part about it is it's hit every mark that we said, and every one of those marks we get teared apart for saying.
Well, it's because everybody looks at it from one direction. You know what I mean? Like there's always more to the story. Like, there's some people that don't like Henry Davis. There's some people that don't think Endy's going to be able to catch at the big leagues. And these people collaborate and they argue about it. There's people that wanted Ortiz in the bullpen from the get-go because they look at him and say, Corbin Burns, Woodruff, all those guys in Milwaukee that started in the bullpen and came out, David Price, Matt Moore, those guys were able to come up and face big league hitters and not just overmatch them, but learn as they go. And that's what the Rays do as well. They'll throw guys out in the bullpen because they have just stuff. They'll figure it out, which I like.
I think that's like my biggest problem is.
That was a really nice catch by Reynolds, by the way. But I do want to say that. On that foul ball.
Mindset is just like development stops at major league. To me, it's like that's probably the best development. Now, mind you, I never went through it, but that's probably the best development you could have. I mean, you're seeing the best. I also feel like a lot of people feel as if you have to be ready because you don't want to have players struggle. And that's where I'm coming from too. I feel like you learn your best through the struggles. I mean, look at Odo Cruz last year is like a great example of that. We knew what he had to work on, and he's not going to be able to really see that and work on it until he faces major league pitching. And he saw it, and he struggled mightily. But that was probably the best thing for him, opposed to keeping him down there in AAA till even later, because, you know, he was able to see what he can work on, and then he worked on it and he got better for it. And like with Henry Davis or Endy, like when they come up, they probably will find their struggles, and that's okay, because also with one thing, with their struggles, they're probably still going to be better than Andujar. They're probably still going to be better than Hedges. So you're getting an improvement. They're learning, they're developing, and then maybe by June, July, they're clicking.
And what's the worst case scenario? You send them down.
Adley's so good.
Adley is good.
How about that frame job there on that curveball there?
Delay stole a nice strike. Delay stole a strike.
That thing was at the ankles.
He's gotten so much better, and it's all due to. I was talking to him. I don't think it was this one. Sam, it was the last one, and I said, "Hey, man, I don't know if anybody's told you this, but how good your mobility is has really impressed me, because that was a big problem for him with his blocking and his receiving, being able to move, properly. A lot of guys want to jump right into that one knee position, and they don't have the ability to move properly, but they think they have to steal strikes. And he really, really spent some time to get more mobile. It's allowed him to do a lot more with that glove. It's really impressive. I really like him. He's a dude that's going to get better and better.
Does he remind you of yourself?
No, he reminds me. I think he's going to be better in Stallings.
Really?
Honest. Yeah, I do.
Really?
I do.
I mean, Stallings would be just like a perfect backup to Davis and Endy. I mean, and that's kind of what he wanted to be the whole time. Like, after drafting Henry Davis, he was like, I want to be Davis's backup, 4 years from now. So, no, I'm with you there.
Even that fastball there that's up a little bit, that's a great frame.
No, that was a good job too. I mean, he ate the call, but I mean, Delay's what? Like, he was like the 11th best pitch framer or something like that in the majors currently, somewhere in that area.
Yeah, he was. Last I checked, he was 11th or 12th.
Framing.
Yeah.
In framing? I thought he was fourth in framing.
Hedges was like, it depends on what you're looking at.
Yeah.
StatCast, I think, had Hedges like third.
Yeah, StatCast, and which is Savant, is third and fourth.
Yeah.
Last I checked.
Yeah.
But they're both elite at keeping strikes. And I think that's something that's overlooked. Like, guys that keep strikes are the biggest thing. Like last night, Adley was actually pushing balls out of the zone. And that's a place he's going to really improve, I think. But, like, he was catching the ball at the bottom and pushing it out. And some of those balls were strikes. He's going to get knocked for it pretty bad.
That might have been where I saw it.
Fielding by StatCast has Delay 10th and Hedges third.
Either way, that's still really good.
Not played much.
Guess who StatCast has 9th, by the way? Blake Sable.
Yeah, that was a weird one for me.
Really?
Yeah, he's playing really well.
Yeah. Yeah, Sable would be kind of nice to have around still, I think. But, that's me.
Well, usually those are guys you just don't let go. I mean, obviously we had a lot of guys we needed to protect, but like usually a catcher that, shows some thump and, has some ability, but is pretty new to the position. It was surprising to me.
Yeah, I mean, he was basically major league ready catcher with versatility who could hit. Mm-hmm. and they didn't think they needed one of those for some reason.
Yeah, it's that argument they all get around and they start arguing, and guys get lost in the shuffle. I mean, luckily that's what happened with Hernandez for us. The fact that guy, he's been really, really good. Other than last night, I thought that we're really aggressive with him, to be honest. I don't know where Stevenson was. Underwood or Stevenson have been typically, when we're winning, started that 7th inning. And
Ford, you just want to do the post-game shows with us? Like, we're just repeating each other now.
You're just repeating everything that we say.
And I get the thought, but like if you're grooming him for something, down the line, like maybe do it when we're winning. It's I don't know. There's something to be said, like when a guy can go out and compete, and we're in a rhythm of winning. That pressure that kid probably felt. No clue. He was yanking the ball across the plate.
Or at least not when the Orioles have the top of the lineup coming up with a bunch of switch hitters.
Whew.
Yeah.
Maybe if they have the top of the lineup that's a bunch of lefties, I can live with it. That spot's a little tough for him.
No doubt. No doubt.
I do like seeing him in a higher leverage situation.
Me
though.
too. Me too.
Maybe just not then.
What about the guys they have coming in Baltimore? Like everybody's been knocking this owner for not spending money, and I don't think people have looked back and said, "Do you see what's coming?" They have some of the best players in baseball in the minor leagues.
I think they see them coming.
I would hope so.
Even the casual fan, I think. But yeah, Baltimore's got
thunder coming in prospects.
Yeah, because they're already good. Like, what is it? They've been like a 92 win team since Adley's been in the lineup.
Yeah, and that's the one thing you got to remember. There's so much more of a guy behind the plate. That's what Hedges does bring. He brings a camaraderie you don't see all the time, and him and DeLay are meshing well, and they're not the problem of us winning or losing. So, like, bringing up, Henry Davis and saying, all right, you're going to catch every day may be a huge issue that we don't see. But put him in right field, I could make that argument.
You all, thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.